Hi everybody, I'm JT and welcome to another video from me here at Campervan Journey. So today's video is a trip down memory lane when we had our T5 Combi camper conversion, and we took our first trip down to Bourg St Maurice in the Alps, and one of our day trips out was to journey up to the Col de L'Iseran. Now this was a drive through some beautiful, spectacular alpine scenery up to an altitude of 2,700 meters. So quite an experience, and I hope you'll enjoy the video and maybe one day get the chance to experience something similar yourself. So today we're going to set off to the mountains and we're going to go to the Col de L'Iseran, which goes from here in Bourg St Maurice up through the mountains, heading out towards Mont Blanc and the Maurienne Valley. So there's a lot of inclines and steep roads on the way. We're typically 6 or 7% incline, but going from around about the 800 meters altitude here in Bourg St Maurice up to 2,770. So quite a steep rise from here till then. So catch up with you later and we'll find out if we had a good trip. So on the map here you can see the route that we're going to take. Starting here in Bourg St Maurice, head out to Seas and then start the climb up along. It's a main road, it's called the D902, so it's a main road, fairly straight on the map, but actually lots of little inclines. We're going past the Lac de Chevril here. There's a huge dam, and this lake is dammed in the valley, so that would be something to look out for. On to Val D'Isere, famous ski resort, and then carry on following the road all the way up to the Col de L'Iseran at 2,700, it says 64 on here, but 2,770 meters there or thereabouts. So it will be a great trip, and hopefully the weather's going to hold for us, so we'll get some tremendous views when we're at the top. Who knows, we might even be able to see Mont Blanc way off in the distance. So we fire up the T5 and head on our way up to the Col de L'Iseran. Leaving the campsite, we head out into Bourg St Maurice. Just a small trip through the town itself until we head out onto the roads through Seas, through the local villages and heading towards the big mountains. After a few kilometres, we head into Val D'Isere, famous ski resort nestling in the valley between the bigger peaks, ski slopes surrounding. Even in the summer, it looks a beautiful place. And heading out through Val D'Isere, we head on through the D902. The scenery becomes more barren, more mountainous, and we start to pick up our first cyclists. One of the famous Alpine passes, part of the Route de Grandes Alpes. The Col de L'Iseran is famous for being a very challenging Tour de France stage and is one of the highest paved roads in the whole of the Alpine region, indeed in the whole of Europe, topping out at 2,770 meters. The switchbacks provide amazing views, but also perilous cliffs and drop-offs. And you have to really have your wits about you as you're driving up to make sure you're not enjoying the view too much and get too close to the edge. This was the peak of summer, right in the middle of July, and in a moment you'll see there was still snow on the ground. More cyclists working really hard, their legs must be absolutely burning along with their lungs. So we go through the snow gates, the last section, to head up to the Col itself. Final few kilometres, final few turns, and you can see the peak just stretching out in front of us. Snow here will remain all year round, shielded from the sun. These patches of snow were several feet deep in places. It's quite remarkable. And a tremendous view back down the valley. So at the top of the pass, there's a traditional hostelry where cyclists, walkers, tourists, pilgrims can stop for refreshment and shelter. There's a little car park where we parked up, and a surprising number of people. Didn't expect there to be as many people at the top of the Col. But our T5, our van, had done us proud. This is a very, very beautiful chapel at the top, the chapel of Our Lady of All Prudence. So we popped in to have a look around. Not as old as it looks, built in 1939, but a really, really tranquil and serene place to sit and ponder and gather your thoughts and enjoy this spectacular view. It seems to become a tradition for people to make little cairns. So Harry, Claire and all of us took time to do the same. It was really, really very enjoyable, just spending the day what felt like being on the top of the world with an amazing view. We were indeed very lucky to be up at the top and the weather be so clear. The next day we would go up to Teen and it was completely opposite weather. Very drizzly, very cold. A phenomenal view. And Harry was very proud with his constructions, and this one he said was Stonehenge, not far from where we live back in the UK. So we really were, according to the compass on my phone, at 2,780 metres up. Tremendous altitude. As is often the case with Alpine passes, they attract three things. Tourists in campervans like us, cyclists and supercars. Just as after we arrived at the top of the Col, a supercar tour of British supercar owners arrived. Mclarens, Ferraris, Porsches, all enjoying these spectacular mountain scenery. I'm sure they were taking care of their brakes in all the turns, and they were about to head on the descent down and onwards into Italy. I did say to Claire that perhaps one day we should take the opportunity to do the same journey in something sporty rather than our camper van. Who knows, maybe that will happen. As I said, our T5 did us a great job. So one last opportunity to enjoy the view before we head back. So we've just played fuel gauge roulette coming down off the Col. Range shows 10 miles. Driving up and down that steep mountain. Obviously didn't do brake limits for our fuel consumption. We made it though. After managing to replenish our fuel after the fuel gauge reading very low, we head back down the way we came, back through Val D'Isere, back down to Bourg St Maurice. and it's a surprisingly long journey. It's around about 50 kilometres back down from the Col, through the snow tunnels carved into the side of the slopes, but you see far more trees here, much more lush vegetation. Really appreciate how high up we were when we were on the top of the Col, way above the tree and vegetation line. The road was still pretty hairy in places, plenty of warning about sharp turns. It's not unusual to head round a corner and see skid marks where people had had to brake as heading on to a sharp bend. But the scenery, once again, is just mind-blowing. I could drive these roads all day, just absolutely spectacular. We had a great trip up to the Col today, and it looked amazing when we were right at the top. Some fantastic views over all the, even though we were really high up, there's still plenty of mountains that were much higher than we were. Still lots of snow up there as well. But driving up there, as we got closer, the range on the fuel gauge was steadily going down. And driving up the steep hills obviously uses more fuel, and maybe I underestimated how much we had in the tank a little bit. But leaving here, we had a range of 120 miles. It's a 30-mile trip to the summit and a 30-mile trip back. So in theory, we would have been absolutely fine. But when we got to the summit, fuel gauge, the fuel light had already come on, which gives a range of 50 miles. And then turning around and descending back, the gauge came up and got as low as 15-mile range to go. So we clearly weren't going to make it back to Bourg St Maurice without some fuel now. I wasn't worried about it, but I think that Claire was perhaps a little bit edgy, but we managed to get through to Val D'Isere. As you can imagine, on these mountain roads, you don't come across petrol stations around every corner, so a little bit of luck played on our side to make sure we got home safely. So thanks very much indeed for watching today's video, something a little bit different back from my archives of videos over the last few years. Remember, if you enjoy the videos I put together here on Campervan Journey, please click the button to like and subscribe, and there'll be much more video content from me very, very soon. Thanks for watching.